So some good news coming out of Israel, as apparently last month Israel approved defense export licenses for possible weapon sales to Ukraine. Now it's just coming out recently in the news. If you remember, Israel's kind of been walking a fine line of trying to maintain its neutrality, to be a mediator between the countries if peace were to take place, but also because Russia has significant influence in Syria, which has a lot of interest with Israel. There's a lot of Israeli security interests in Syria as well. So they didn't want to cause an arms race to counter what Ukraine would be getting from Israel in Syria. So what's really driving this, though, is the obvious revelations recently that Iran has been providing attack drones to the Russians to fight the Ukrainians. And Ukraine claimed that the Israelis could study and use their equipment to counter these Iranian drones, and that Iran is using the war to conduct research and development to make their drones better. Well, Israel seems to have agreed and is providing counter-drone technology. The licenses were approved for two Israeli companies called Elbit and Rafael. They develop anti-drone systems in Israel, and they likely will be provided. These systems are quite effective. They use electronic warfare to jam and down these drones, and they have a range of 25 miles, which would probably put them as one of the more advanced systems for counter-drone warfare in Ukraine right now. Now, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry says they're interested in the systems, but they aren't as critical because the Ukrainians are claiming their internally built systems are able to intercept drones 75 to 90% of the time, just not at that same distance. Ukraine went back to Israel and basically said, thank you very much. We'll definitely take whatever you're willing to give, but they really need defensive systems for ballistic missiles, things like the Iron Dome system, etc. Israeli officials claim the approval of the export licenses is not a shift in policy because the systems are defensive in nature and they don't use any live fire that can kill Russian soldiers. But, I mean, if you're able to down the drones, you're downing what would be an offensive system, or at least a reconnaissance system that would be assisting Russia in winning the war, and losing those systems to Israeli counter-drone warfare means that their troops are more vulnerable. So I get that there's a little bit of mental gymnastics in Israel providing them, and I'm very happy that Israel is providing such equipment, but we're not too far away from Israel providing potentially defensive weaponry in the capacity of counter-ballistic missiles, such as their Iron Dome. That same argument of it's a defensive system can be made for Iron Dome. Now, granted, that their anti-ballistic missile systems can be tooled to be anti-aircraft, which would be engaging actual Russian pilots. But again, it would be in a defensive capacity. Frankly, everything Ukraine is receiving is in a defensive capacity because they are defending their country. So regardless of all of that, Israel has taken the huge step to now approve defensive weaponry, or at least weaponry for counter-drone warfare, and potentially additional weapons going forward in the near future. And it's just yet another country that has decided that Russia is an authoritarian, despotic, evil nation, and they need to be stopped. And thankfully, Israel has joined the Western world to provide equipment to assist in that.